faggot to 37. I was called a faggot as far back as I can remember. It started when I was around 4 and lasted through junior high. I didn't understand why at first. I vividly remember one day in kindergarten when this girl named Aura Lee called me a faggot. It wasn't the first time that label had been thrown my way, but I still didn't grasp its significance. So I went home and I asked, "Mommy, what's a faggot?" The image is so clear. She was standing in the bathroom doing something where I couldn't see her face, but she gave me a vague answer and kept it moving. It was tough growing up in Brooklyn and not being the quintessential boy. I was black, really smart, and not into sports. I loved My Little Pony, as well as Voltron and the Thundercats. I also loved Sweet Valley Twins, shout out to Elizabeth and Jessica, and the Babysitters Club. So I can freely say that I was not the most boyish kid. But that word, faggot, it followed me. There was a family barbecue in the summer of 1988 at my Aunt Janie's house. Doing the Butt was playing in the background when the school days was out, and everyone was dancing and having fun. My cousin Danessa was nearby, and I saw one of her friends point to me and ask who I was. And she said, "We'll just call him the faggot of the century." That's a lot of pressure, right? What a title to live up to. And then at school, I was friends with these girls who made it their mission to turn me into a real boy. Like Pinocchio. They even pointed out other boys as examples of what I should aspire to. I remember my friend Jeanette saying, "Look at Ibrahim. He is the perfect example of a boy." I mean, Ibrahim was cool, and everyone liked him. He was good at sports and he was funny, but it's not like he was the king of the school or anything. But in comparison to me, he might as well have been Danny Zuko from Grease. And to make matters worse, one day at recess, my friend Brandy Tate yelled, "Football!" and pushed me to play ball with the boys. Now, the only thing worse than people calling you a faggot is to then quote unquote prove them right by attempting a sport and failing miserably. I mean, I didn't know how to throw that fucking thing. I still don't, but I'm at peace with it. But everywhere I turned, I was getting messages of what a boy was supposed to be. But I knew I didn't measure up. It was difficult because my mom was a single mom. But I was literally raised by the village. My aunt lived on the first floor, grandma was on the second, great-grandparents on the third, we lived on the seventh. And my dad's parents lived around the corner. Now it's fucked up because my dad lived in the city, but I only saw him about 4 times a year, and he wouldn't give me his number. I have to call my grandparents to have them call him, to tell him I wanted to speak to him, to get him to call me. So here I am, trying to navigate this world without the constant male figure who's supposed to be there for me. Now that being said, there was no shortage of love from the village, and my grandpa was the best. Even though my dad was trifling, both sides of the family remained close, and my grandpa was a big jokester. He'd always tease my grandmother and my aunt from my mother's side when he saw him in church, and he had an awesome laugh. My earliest memory of him was when I was 3, and he stayed home with me when I had the chicken pox, playing cards with me at the dining room table, bathing me, putting calamine lotion on my arms. He was so different than my father. And I often wondered how a man who came from such awesome parents would turn out the way he did. But there's one memory that I've never shared, and I still regret it. When I was 18, my mother took me and most of the village out to a nice dinner for my graduation. I was surrounded by Mom, Grandma, Nana, my aunt, my best friend Gisette, and my grandfather. And suddenly I got self-conscious. For some reason, I was embarrassed to be surrounded by all these women in front of my grandfather. I knew he wasn't judging, but in that moment, I felt like Adam and Eve when they realized they were naked in the Garden of Eden, and I wanted him gone. My mind was screaming, "I don't want you here." The shame ran so deep, and I really can't explain it. I've just always felt guilty for having those thoughts for a man who showed me nothing but love, who taught me how to drive even though he'd spaz if I went over 25 miles an hour, who was one of only 2 people I let smoke around me. The other being this fine-ass girl named Deanna from college. She always smelled of cigarettes and peaches. She had us all entranced, but I digress. It's a small thing, but that embarrassment kept me closed on some level. In my mind, I began to think that no girl would ever love me because I wasn't man enough. And growing up and liking girls was hard too because it wasn't reciprocated. Most girls aren't feeling the faggot. In junior high, I was in love with Elba Morales. Now the best way to describe her is that she was like a Puerto Rican Sade. She always wore this braid and she had these nice hoop earrings. I used to draw the back of this girl's head in class, earrings included, because I just thought she was the best. Now once we were on a class trip to some park near the Verrazano, the boys were playing ball and I was with the girls up under Elba. She got so annoyed with me and she just said, "Why don't you get out of my butthole already?" So as you can see, I had a real word with the ladies. But I had the ugly duckling syndrome for so long that when I got to college and things started to turn around, I couldn't reconcile it with my former self. My thought process was, how can you like me? No girl really has, and if you know my truth, you'll leave. But that all changed when I was 22 and got close with this girl. She was a college friend of one of my friends, and we started hanging out in New York. She was beautiful, but more important, she was funny. And we have two crazy things in common. We both do not know how to blow our noses. And when we were little, we both thought Michael Jackson was saying, "The chair is not my son." We also have the same sense of humor, and I could talk to her about anything. I even let her come over to my mom's messy, bordering on hoarder-level house to hang out with no shame. We'd watch TV, go to the movies, and laugh. We bonded over soap operas and Broadway shows. And even after all that, she still liked me. And after a while, even though everyone around us except us could see it, we realized there was something deeper going on. I had never felt this way. What girl could love all this? What girl could find me worthy? I didn't think she was out there. I think I thought I'd be alone, unworthy in love for my entire life. But that first kiss, wow. Lips so soft, burning passion. I was hooked. And I still am 15 years later. We have a daughter now who's 2, and she doesn't know me as the faggot of the century. To her, I'm the father of the century. It's an evolution. But finally, at 37, I'm starting to be okay being me.